The space station hung silently in orbit over the broken moon of Elion. The moon's surface was cracked like dry earth, glowing softly with the fires that still burned from the last battle. Inside the medical station, the halls were quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the occasional voice of a nurse checking on patients. Jake Turner walked through the corridor, holding a tablet in one hand. He was a corporal from Earth, sent to help with post-war recovery. His boots made a soft sound on the metal floor as he moved. He had seen war, too much of it, but this place felt different. It wasn't just a hospital, it was a place where pain lived. He turned a corner and saw her. She stood alone near a large window, looking out at the broken moon. Her tall frame was wrapped in a dark robe, but her face was uncovered. Her skin was a soft shade of grey, her eyes deep violet. A long scar ran from her left temple down to her cheek. There were more on her arms, her neck, symbols, cuts, marks from war. Jake had read about her people, the Zarelians, warriors by tradition. They wore their scars like medals, each one telling a story. Most humans avoided them. They were too strange, too proud, too wounded. Jake didn't look away. She turned to face him. Her eyes narrowed, curious but cautious. "You are not lost," she said, her voice calm but deep. Her accent was sharp but clear. "No," Jake replied. "I'm looking for the med bay. Thought I'd check on some of our guys. I just got here." She nodded. "They are in Sector 3. Follow the blue lights." Jake glanced toward the hallway she pointed to, then looked back at her. "Thank you." She tilted her head slightly. "You look at me. Most do not." Jake shrugged. "I figure if you can survive whatever made those scars, you deserve to be looked at with respect." She was silent for a moment. Then she turned back to the window. Humans speak many words. Few mean them. Jake stepped closer. "I mean them." "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lyra, I'm Jake," he said. "Nice to meet you, Lyra." She didn't smile, but something in her eyes softened. They stood in silence for a while. Jake watched the stars. Lyra watched him. "Were you in the battle?" he asked finally. "Yes," she answered. "I led the third charge. We lost many. We gained nothing." Jake nodded. "I lost people too. Good people. Sometimes I wonder what it was all for." "To stop worse things," she said. "Or so they say." Jake looked at her again. Her face held pain, but also strength. He saw someone who had lost, who had fought, who had survived. "You staying here long?" he asked. "Until the talks are finished." "My presence calms the younger warriors. They listen to me. That's a good thing. They need someone like you." She turned to him again. "You are strange for a soldier." "You're not the first to say that," Jake said, smiling a little. For the first time, Lyra gave a small smile to. It was barely there, but it was real. A nurse passed by, nodded to Lyra, and gave Jake a curious look. Jake nodded back, then turned to go. "I'll let you get back to your stars," he said. Lyra looked at him one more time. "Thank you, Jake, for seeing me." Jake paused, then nodded. Any time, he walked away, but something had changed. The war was over, but the healing had only just begun. And in that quiet space between stars and scars, something new had started to grow. Jake didn't know what it was yet, but he knew he wanted to find out. The next day, Jake found himself walking back to the observation deck. He told himself he was just checking the area, but he knew the truth. He wanted to see Lyra again. Something about her stayed with him. Her silence, her strength, the way she didn't hide her pain. He had met many soldiers, but none like her. She was there again, standing near the window, just like before. This time, she turned before he could speak. Back again, she asked. Jake smiled. Yeah, guess I like the view. She looked at him for a long second. You mean the stars, or me? Jake laughed a little, maybe both. She didn't laugh, but her eyes held a strange light. She turned back to the window. Jake stood beside her. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. It felt calm, almost peaceful. You fought in the last war too, didn't you? She asked. Yeah, Jake said. A few missions on the ground. One in orbit. Lost some good people. So did I, she said softly. He looked at her. You ever talk about it? She shook her head. What is the point? The dead do not return. Jake nodded slowly. Maybe not, but talking can help the living. She turned toward him. You speak like a healer, not a soldier. Jake looked down. I never liked killing. I did it because I had to. But after losing my brother, I started to think more. Lyra's expression changed. Her eyes lowered. I had a sister. She died in the Second War. I carry her memory here. She reached to touch a thick scar along her side. It was deep and jagged. What happened? Jake asked. Lyra took a deep breath. We were surrounded. The enemy used fire weapons. She was hit. I ran through the flames to carry her out. This scar is from that moment. She died 2 hours later. Jake didn't speak right away. He knew words wouldn't fix anything. But he wanted her to know he heard her. That took courage, he said. She must have meant everything to you. She did, Lyra said. After she died, I stopped feeling. I fought harder, got more scars. But inside, I was empty. Jake looked at her. Hands, they were strong, but shaking just a little. I get that, he said. When I lost my brother, I started volunteering for the worst missions. I think part of me hoped I wouldn't come back. She looked up at him. There was no judgment in her eyes, just understanding. You survived, she said. Double quotes, yeah. Still trying to figure out why. They were quiet again. But now the silence felt different. He had seen her scars. She had seen his. Not on the skin, but in the heart. Do you fear me, Jake? She asked suddenly. No, he said. I respect you. There's a difference. She stepped a little closer. You look at my scars, and you do not flinch. Why? Jake thought about it. Then he said, because I've got my own. You just can't see them. Lyra nodded slowly. That is rare among your kind. Jake gave a small smile. I'm not like most people. She touched one of the scars on her arm. These are part of who I am, but they scare others. Not me, Jake said. They tell me you survived, that you fought for something. Lyra looked at him with something close to wonder. Then she said, perhaps you were sent here for a reason. Jake tilted his head. Maybe we both were. A voice came through the station. Intercom, calling Jake to a briefing in the command room. He sighed. Duty calls. Lyra nodded. Go. I will remain here. He started to walk away, then paused and looked back. Will you be here tomorrow? She looked at him. Yes. Jake smiled. Then, I'll see you tomorrow, Lyra. As he left, Lyra turned back to the stars. For the first time in many years, she didn't feel alone. Jake came to the observation deck again the next day. Lyra was waiting for him, standing by the window just like before. She didn't speak right away. She just looked at him with quiet eyes. Jake smiled as he stepped beside her. Told you I'd come, Lyra nodded. You are a man of your word. They looked out into space together. The stars blinked in the dark sky, calm and endless. The broken moon still floated nearby, a reminder of the war they both survived. After a while, Jake asked, "Did you sleep well?" "I do not sleep much," Lyra replied. "Old memories return when my eyes are closed." Jake nodded. "Same here." There was a moment of silence. Lyra turned to him. "Would you like to know more about my people?" Jake smiled. "I'd like that." She walked over to a bench near the window, and Jake followed. They sat down side by side. Lyra spoke in a calm voice. "Xerelians do not hide pain. We are taught to show it. Every scar is proof of survival. Each one is a story." She slowly pulled back her sleeve, revealing 3 thin scars across her forearm. "These," she said, "are from my first battle. I was just 15. A training mission turned real. My squad was ambushed. I led us to safety." Jake looked at the scars, then at her face. "You were just a kid." "Yes," she said softly, "but in our world, we grow up quickly." She showed another scar along her hand. This one came from a duel, a test of leadership. "I won, but I left the mark." Jake touched his own arm, remembering the burn there from a crash during a failed rescue. "Sometimes the worst scars aren't from battle," he said. Lyra looked at him. "You carry pain too. I can see it in your eyes." Jake gave a sad smile. "My brother was my best friend. He looked out for me, always made me laugh. One day, we got a call. Civilians were trapped on a broken freighter. He volunteered to fly in. Supplies. The ship exploded." Lyra placed her hand gently on Jake's arm. "I am sorry." Jake didn't pull away. Her touch was warm and steady. "After that," he continued, "I didn't care much about living. I took any mission I could. Didn't matter if it was dangerous." "But you lived," Lyra said. "Yeah, I lived, and I kept going. Maybe I didn't want to give up, deep down." Lyra nodded. "You are stronger than you know." They sat there quietly again. The silence was full, but not heavy. Then Lyra said something she had never told anyone before. "I blamed myself for my sister's death. If I had moved faster, ... If I had stayed behind, maybe she would have lived." Jake looked at her, really looked. "You did everything you could. You carried her through fire. You loved her, that's what matters." A soft breath escaped her lips. She looked away, blinking. "No one has said that to me," she whispered. Jake gently touched her shoulder. "You don't have to carry that alone." They sat together until the lights in the hall dimmed, signaling night. Lyra finally stood. "Come, I want to show you something." Jake followed her through the quiet halls. She led him to a part of the station few visited her. Small garden room with plants from both Earth and Xyrel. The air was warmer here, and soft lights glowed from the walls. Lyra walked to a tall tree with blue leaves and placed her hand on its bark. "This is a memory tree," she said. "We plant one for each fallen warrior. Each leaf holds a name." Jake stepped closer. "It's beautiful. This one," she said, pointing to a low branch, "is for my sister." Jake placed his hand beside hers. "Thank you for sharing this." Lyra looked at him. "You are different from other men. You listen. You see." He gave a small smile. "You're the first person who's really seen me in a long time." She leaned closer. Her voice was soft. You're the first man who didn't look away from my scars. Jake felt a warmth in his chest. He didn't answer right away. He just looked into her eyes. Then he said, I didn't see scars. I saw you. They stood there, hand in hand, the tree glowing gently beside them. In that moment, the pain didn't vanish, but it softened. They weren't alone anymore. Asterisk. The alarm rang across the station. Red. Lights flashed in every hallway. Jake woke up fast. He grabbed his boots and gear and rushed out of his room. People were running in every direction. He heard shouting over the comm system station under attack. Jake reached the main hall and saw soldiers and guards taking positions. He ran to the control room where the officer in charge gave quick orders. Unknown mercenary group breached the outer hull. They're here to capture diplomats. We have to protect them at all costs. Jake didn't ask questions. He grabbed a rifle and ran toward the central level. On his way, he spotted Lyra. She was already in armor, her long staff in her hand, eyes sharp and calm. Lyra, Jake, called she, turned quickly. Stay close to me. They will aim for the weak spots. Jake nodded. They moved together down the corridor. Explosions echoed from deeper inside the station. Smoke filled the air. Jake's heart pounded in his chest. But he kept moving. Lyra led the way with sure steps. They reached the main hall where a group of terrified civilians, both human and alien, were trapped behind fallen beams. The attackers were closing in. We have to hold this ground, Lyra said. Jake took cover. Behind a crate. Let's do it. The battle began fast. The enemy fired from behind corners and doors. Jake returned fire, staying low and focused. Lyra moved like a storm, fast and deadly. Her staff spun through the air, striking enemies. With perfect precision, Jake watched her fight. She wasn't just strong, she was trained, graceful, like a dancer in armor. Her scars didn't slow her down. They told the truth of her strength. But then he heard something cries. A small girl and her father were trapped behind burning wreckage. I'll get them, Jake shouted. Wait. Lyra started, but Jake had already moved. He ran through falling sparks and jumped over debris. A beam collapsed behind him, cutting off his way back. He reached the child and her father. Come on, Jake said, lifting the girl into his arms. We're getting out of here. The father followed, limping badly. Jake looked for another way out. Flames blocked their path. Then Lyra appeared through the smoke. Her armor was scorched, her eyes wild. She cut through the wreckage and pulled them to safety. Just as they reached the other side, a blast went off nearby. Jake shielded the girl with his body. The heat burned through his side. He groaned and fell to the ground. Jake, Lyra cried. She grabbed him and pulled him behind. Cover. The girl and her father were already being helped by a medic. Jake tried to sit up, but pain shot through his body. I'm okay, he said weakly. You are not, Lyra said firmly. You saved them. Now I save you. She lifted him with surprising strength and carried him down the hallway as more guards arrived to take over the defense. By the time they reached the medbay, Jake was fading. He felt the pain, but also the warmth of her arms around him. He tried to speak, but his words were slurred. Don't talk, Lyra whispered. Just stay alive. Doctors rushed to take him. They placed him in a healing pod. Lyra stood nearby, watching with clenched fists. Hours passed. She didn't move. Nurses brought her water, but she refused to leave. Finally, Jake opened his eyes. The pod lights dimmed. His vision cleared, and he saw her. "Hey," he whispered. Lyra stepped forward. "You woke up, of course," he said, trying to smile. "You didn't think I'd leave you now, did you?" Lyra's voice softened. "You were foolish. Brave, but foolish." Jake chuckled, then winced. "I'll take brave." She leaned closer. "You risked your life for people you didn't know." Jake looked at her. "That's what we do, right? We protect those who can't fight." She nodded. "That is the heart of a true warrior." He reached out, and she took his hand. "Thank you," he said. "For saving me." "I had to," she replied. "You matter to me." He looked at her, surprised. "I matter, yes," she said. "More than I expected. More than I understand." Jake smiled, his eyes soft. "You matter to me too." They stayed like that, hand in hand, as the lights of the med bay flickered gently around them. The battle had ended, but something new had begun, a bond deeper than pain, stronger than fear. A bond between two scarred souls who had finally found each other. Jake stayed in the medical pod for 2 more days. The burns on his side were healing, but the pain still came and went. He didn't mind. What mattered to him was that he had saved the child and her father, and more than that, Lyra had saved him. She visited him every day. She didn't say much at first. She just sat beside the pod, silent and calm. But her presence gave Jake comfort. He felt safe when she was near. On the 3rd day, Jake was strong enough to sit up. The nurses removed him from the pod and helped him onto a bed. He looked around and smiled when he saw Lyra waiting. "You look better," she said. "Still feel like I got hit by a ship," he replied, rubbing his side. She walked over and sat down beside his bed. "You saved that child," she said. "You nearly died doing it." Jake looked at her. "I'd do it again." Lyra tilted her head. "You have a strange heart, Jake. Brave, but reckless." He laughed a little. "I've heard that before." They sat in silence for a while. The soft sounds of machines hummed around them. "Why did you stay with me?" Jake asked. Lyra looked at him, her voice low. "Because I was afraid." Jake blinked. "You afraid?" She nodded slowly. "I thought I would lose you, and I didn't want to feel that again." Jake reached for her hand. "I'm still here." She didn't pull away. Her hand was warm in his. "I have lost many," she said. "Family, friends, fellow warriors. I told myself I would never care again. That way, I would not feel pain. But you broke that wall." Jake squeezed her hand. "You let me in." Lyra looked down. "I didn't mean to, but I'm glad I did." They stayed like that for a long time. No need for words. Their silence spoke louder. Later that night, Lyra brought him food from the Zarelian kitchen on the station. It smelled strange but tasted good. Jake smiled after the first bite. "Better than hospital food," he said. She laughed softly. "It is meant to heal the body and the spirit." "I could get used to it," Jake said. "Do not eat too fast." Lyra warned, "You need your strength." After the meal, Jake leaned back on the bed. "You've been here with me all this time. Don't you have other duties?" "I told the council I would return when you were well," Lyra said. "They understood." Jake smiled. "You care more than you admit." Lyra looked away for a moment. Then she said, "Yes, I do." Jake reached out and gently touched a scar on her wrist. "I used to think scars were ugly. Now I think they're beautiful." Lyra looked into his eyes. "Why?" "Because they show you survived. That you kept going. That you didn't give up." She didn't speak for a long time. When she did, her voice was soft. "You are the only one who has ever said that to me." Jake smiled. "I mean it." The next morning, Jake was walking slowly in the hallway with the help of a cane. Lyra walked beside him. "You're healing fast," she said. "I've got a good reason to," he said with a smile. She smiled back as they passed the observation deck. Jake stopped. "Let's sit," he said. They walked to the same bench near the window. The stars outside still glowed softly. The broken moon was quiet now, its fires long gone. Jake looked out and said, "When I first came here, I didn't expect any of this. I thought I was just another soldier doing another job. And now?" Lyra asked. "Now," Jake said, looking at her, "I feel like I found something worth fighting for." Lyra turned her head. Her eyes were soft. "You have given me something too," she said. "Hope." They sat together, close but not touching, feeling the quiet bond growing stronger. That night, as Jake rested in his room, he got a message from Earth Command. He was being asked to return home in 1 week. He looked at the message, then out the window, thinking of Lyra, of her scars, of her voice, of her hand in his. He didn't know what the future would bring, but he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't ready to leave her behind. Asterisk the next day. The station held a memorial for those who had died during the mercenary attack. Both human and alien names were read aloud. Soft music played from both worlds. The large hall was filled with people wearing black robes or quiet uniforms. Jake sat near the front, his sides still sore, but his mind focused. Lyra stood beside him. Her armor was clean and polished. Her eyes looked calm, but Jake could feel the weight in her silence. A Zeralian elder walked up to the front and began to speak. Then a human officer shared a few words. After them, a voice called out, "Lyra of Zyrel and Corporal Jake Turner of Earth, please come forward." Lyra looked at Jake. He gave her a small nod. She walked forward without fear. Jake followed slowly. They stood on the stage, the light falling gently on them. Lyra looked out over the crowd. Then she did something no one expected. She reached up and removed her robe. Gasps filled the hall. Her scars were now fully visible. Lines, marks, cuts, symbols of war and survival. For a moment, the room was silent. Lyra began to speak. Her voice was clear and strong. "These scars are not signs of shame. They are stories. Stories of pain, of courage, of loss, and of hope. Each one belongs to someone I fought beside. Some still live, some do not." She touched her side gently. "This one is for my sister, who gave her life in a battle far from here. I carry her memory with me every day." Her hand moved to another scar. "This is for the child I carried through fire. This is for the warrior who stood beside me when I thought death would come." She turned slightly toward Jake. "And this is not a scar, but a beginning. A beginning that came when someone looked at me and did not flinch." Jake felt her words deep in his chest. Then it was his turn. He stepped forward and spoke. "We all carry scars. Some you can see, some you can't. I lost my brother in the war. I tried to bury the pain by risking my life again and again. But meeting Lyra changed that. She reminded me what it means to feel again, to care again." He looked at her. "She's not just a warrior. She's not just a survivor. She's hope." The crowd was silent for a long moment. Then one person began to clap. Another followed, and soon The room filled with applause, not loud and wild, but soft and respectful. After the memorial, people came to speak to them. A young human diplomat said, "Your words changed something in this room today." An older Zerelian warrior gave Lyra a deep nod. "You honored your sister well." Jake and Lyra stood side by side as people passed. Later, they found a quiet place near the garden room. Jake sat on the bench and looked up at her. That was brave, showing them everything. "It was time," Lyra said. "I no longer wish to hide who I am." Jake smiled. "You never needed to." Lyra sat beside him. "You have to leave soon." Jake nodded slowly. "Yeah, 1 week. Earth Command wants me back." She looked away. "And you will go?" "I have to," he said. "But that doesn't mean goodbye." Lyra turned to him. "What does it mean then?" Jake reached for her hand. "It means I'll come back, if you'll wait for me." She looked at him for a long moment. "I will wait," he smiled. "Good, because I don't think I can imagine a future without you in it." Lyra leaned her head gently against his shoulder. "Nor I, without you." They sat in the quiet, under the soft lights of the garden room. The memory tree swayed slightly as if touched by wind, but there was no wind-only peace. Jake knew his time on the station was ending, but something new had started here. Not just peace between two worlds, but something deeper, something personal, something real. A bond had been formed, not by orders, not by duty, but by understanding, by trust, and by the simple act of seeing someone and not turning away.